What if I told you that women have emotional blind spots they'll never admit, yet they guide their behavior more than logic ever will? And what if you also knew that recognizing these invisible patterns could flip the entire relationship dynamic without you chasing, begging, or proving your worth? Here's the truth. No woman carries insecurities she'll never verbalize, no matter how confident. But the man who can see through the mask, without exposing it, holds all the power. This isn't about manipulation, it's about clarity. It's about understanding what drives attraction, fear, and attachment on a deeper level, so you stop reacting and start leading. Right now, most men give away their power trying to impress or explain themselves, while missing the subtle cues that would have changed everything. Her energy either pulls you or you center her into yours. So, if you're ready to stop living in confusion and start playing from strength, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, and comment below. I choose clarity, not chaos. Number 1. Her hidden triggers. Why she's drawn when you don't chase. Most men believe women are attracted to who chases hardest, gives the most, or shows the greatest attention. But that belief is not only wrong, it's the reason many men are ignored. What truly draws women in isn't relentless pursuit, but controlled presence. It's the man who knows her psychological triggers and uses restraint, not pressure, to activate them. Let's begin with the first, the craving to be pursued. Even the most independent women desire attention. It's part of their biology, but it loses value when attention becomes constant, predictable, and overly available. The man who pulls back just enough, who remains unpredictable, becomes an emotional puzzle. He gives glimpses of interest but never full access. That makes him magnetic. The second, the fear of being replaced. Women don't want to feel like any woman could take their place. When a man moves with quiet confidence, surrounded by options yet unfazed, it ignites her competitive instinct. She starts to invest more, not to win you over, but to protect her place in your world. Third, the desire for genuine recognition. Women are praised all the time for how they look, but the man who notices her thoughtfulness, the way she handles stress, or the way she pauses before answering a deep question, that man stands out. Specific compliments, grounded in truth, bypass her ego and hit her soul. Lastly, her emotional rhythm needs contrast. She may respect you if you're always sweet, predictable, or nice, but she won't feel that primal pull. She wants a man who can laugh, then go quiet, who listens deeply, but doesn't reveal everything, who's warm but also mysterious. The Stoic man understands this. Attraction isn't about performing but positioning. You don't need to chase, you don't need to overwhelm, you simply understand her inner dynamics and lead with strength and restraint. No comment below. I attract by understanding, not chasing. Number 2. The power of being optional. Why she tries harder when you don't need her. There's a trigger most men overlook, but women feel it instantly. The fear of being replaceable. It's not about playing games or making her jealous. It's about carrying yourself in a way that quietly says, I chose you, but I didn't need to. This isn't arrogance, it's self-respect. A man who knows his worth doesn't beg for attention, reassurance, or validation, and, ironically, that's what makes women crave his attention more. When a woman feels like she's the only thing holding a man together, she pulls away. But when she senses that you have a strong identity that existed before her and will thrive without her, it ignites something deeper. She doesn't just want your attention now, she wants to earn her place in your world. This is where most men fail. They try to prove themselves, constant texting, over-committing, over-explaining. But proof chases approval, and approval-seeking screams low value. The Stoic man doesn't do that. He's detached from outcomes, not because he doesn't care, but because he refuses to surrender his peace. He's focused on his path, his mission, and his growth. A woman entering his life must align, not distract, and that clarity of direction is irresistible. So how do you embody this? Speak from choice, not desperation. Invest where there's reciprocity, not just attention. Be generous, but with standards. Never fear walking away. And most importantly, be unbothered when you're not chosen. Because the right woman doesn't need convincing. She recognizes the presence of a man who can walk away with dignity. Everything changes when you stop trying to be irreplaceable and start living as if you already are. She won't just want to be with you. She'll want to prove that she's worthy of staying in your life. No comment below. I'm chosen by value, not by need. Number 3. Speak to her soul, not her ego. Most men fall into the trap of complimenting what's obvious, her beauty, outfit, and smile. But what happens when every guy does that? She becomes numb to praise. Her ego is flattered, yes, but her heart remains untouched, because surface-level attention never reaches the soul. Here's where the Stoic man separates himself. He doesn't praise to please. He praises to reflect truth. Instead of saying, "You look beautiful," he says, "The way you calmed that situation back there, that was powerful," or "You pause before you speak. Most people don't do that. It says a lot about you." Now that sounds subtle, but subtle is the secret. These words aren't crafted to impress. They come from presence, from noticing the details that most people overlook. And that's why they pierce deeper than any sweet line ever could. Because when a woman feels seen for something beyond her appearance, when she feels understood for her strength, her kindness, her thought process, something powerful happens. She feels recognized, not just validated. And recognition plants a seed of emotional attachment far stronger than physical attraction. But here's the key. Only say it when it's real. Stoic men don't flatter. They observe. They don't use compliments to get something. They offer them because they saw something worth naming. So be intentional. Watch how she handles stress, how she talks about her family, how her energy shifts when she's passionate about something. And if you find something worthy of praise, say it, briefly, calmly, without expecting a reaction. That moment will stay with her far longer than any compliment about her dress ever could. No comment below. I don't flatter, I reflect what's real. Number 4. Be the storm she trusts, not the one she escapes. Women aren't attracted to chaos. They're attracted to the man who stays calm inside chaos. A deep psychological trigger activates when she sees you handle pressure without folding. That's when she feels safe, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. It's not about being emotionless, it's about being unshakable. When something goes wrong, she's late, pulls back, gets moody. Most men panic. They chase, over-explain, or try to fix her state. But the Stoic man, he breathes. He stays grounded. He doesn't try to rescue. He remains present without losing himself. That's powerful, because she reads your nervous system like a book. If you're calm, she relaxes. If you're reactive, she doubts. And nothing kills attraction faster than a man who needs her to be okay, just so he can feel okay. Want to build trust? Don't just listen. Listen without agenda. Don't just lead. Lead without ego. Be the man who doesn't need to control everything to feel confident. Just your presence, your breath, your stillness. That's leadership. Here's a practical shift. When she's emotional, don't mirror her chaos. Hold your peace. When she tests your frame, don't fight back. Respond with warmth or silence. When plans shift, don't complain. Adapt. Flow with it. These aren't tactics, they're traits. Traits of a man who's practiced presence, who's not chasing certainty from others because he's already cultivated it within. And that presence, that quiet steadiness, it will make her trust you more than 1,000 words ever could. No comment below. I don't react. I remain. Number 5. Be a puzzle, not a prize. What happens when a woman figures a man out too quickly? She stops being curious, and when curiosity dies, attraction fades. That's why one of the deepest psychological triggers is this: mystery. You don't have to be cold or manipulative. Those behaviors repel true connection, but what keeps her hooked isn't always how much you share, it's how you share, just enough to spark imagination, not to feed it completely. The Stoic man understands this. He knows how to leave space in conversation, pause, and give a sincere answer while holding something back. His life is full, layered, and not all of it is available at first glance. That makes him compelling. Here's the mistake most men make. They over-explain. Instead, be like a well-written book. Each page gives something real, making her want to turn the next. Show depth, but not desperation. Express warmth, but not weakness. Offer your time, not your entire self right away. And don't be afraid of silence. Mystery isn't built with words, but in the spaces between them. A look, a smirk, a pause that lets her wonder, what's he thinking? She's not drawn to men who spill their soul on demand. She's drawn to the man she's still figuring out, even after weeks. That man? He becomes unforgettable. No comment below. Mystery isn't confusion, it's restraint. Number 6. The magnetism of mission. Why purpose is more attractive than pursuit. A man without purpose chases women. A man with purpose lets women find him along the way. This isn't just philosophy, it's observable psychology. When a man is focused, directed, and committed to something larger than himself, he stops seeking external approval, and that absence of neediness, it radiates power. Most men don't realize that a woman doesn't want to be your mission. She wants to join a man who already has one. She wants to feel chosen, not because you're lost without her, but because you're clear about where you're going and she happens to complement that journey. Think of it like this. When you stop orbiting around her attention and start building something with meaning, your body, your career, your art, your discipline, you shift from being available to being intentional. And women sense that instantly. The Stoic man lives by this. He doesn't pause his momentum for temporary validation. He doesn't rearrange his life to chase emotional highs. He anchors himself in legacy, in his evolution, in his craft. And here's the paradox. The more you commit to your mission, the more women are drawn in, not because you're ignoring them, but because your energy isn't asking for permission to exist. It's sovereign. And that's what's rare. So how do you embody this? Don't pause your goals to reply instantly. Let your schedule reflect your priorities, not her emotions. Talk about what you're building, not who you're trying to impress. Purpose isn't something you wear to seem impressive. It's a fire you tend to in silence. And when she sees that fire, she feels both inspired and safe. Not because you're chasing her, but because she sees where she could belong if she invests. Now comment below, I follow purpose, attraction follows me. Number 7. Play with contrast. That's what keeps her hooked. If you're always calm, you become predictable. If you're always intense, you become exhausting. But if you balance both, softness with strength, presence with distance, you create the emotional contrast that keeps her engaged, because what women crave more than consistency is surprise that feels safe. Here's the truth. Attraction isn't static, it's dynamic. It lives in tension and release, silence and expression, warmth and chill. The men she remembers most aren't the ones who were perfectly stable. They're the ones who made her feel alive without making her feel unsafe. This is where the Stoic edge becomes powerful. You don't get caught in emotional swings, but you understand rhythm. You know when to hold back. You know when to lean in. You create moments of intimacy, then step back to let her desire rise again. Here's how to create this emotional tension with depth. Be fully present one day, then disappear to handle your mission the next. Show warmth and vulnerability in a moment, then return to silence and composure. Compliment something deep and rare, then say nothing the next time you meet. This isn't being hot and cold. It's being layered. You're not there to perform a character. You're there to reveal yourself strategically, not all at once. You create a cadence where she leans in, wondering, who is this man? And that question, that curiosity, is where attraction lives. The Stoic man doesn't fear being misunderstood. He knows the right people will stay curious. He lets contrast keep the fire alive, not through manipulation, but through presence, restraint, and intentional rhythm. Because when she can't fully predict you, she can't stop thinking about you. No comment below. I move with rhythm, not reaction. Number 8. The mystery of space. Why silence pulls her closer. Most men think connection is built through constant communication. Texts, calls, updates, check-ins. But in truth, emotional gravity doesn't grow from proximity alone. It grows from space, from silence, from the absence that makes presence feel valuable again. When you give her too much access, she stops reaching. But you shift the dynamic when you disappear with purpose, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. Suddenly she wonders what you're doing, who you're becoming, why she hasn't heard from you. This is not a game. It's a truth of psychology. Humans value what's scarce, and if your attention is always available, it becomes background noise. The Stoic man doesn't seek to fill every silence. He lets silence do the talking. When she pulls away, he doesn't chase. He pulls inward. When she becomes passive, he becomes still, not desperate. This quiet strength disturbs her sense of control. It flips the emotional script. Here's how you use space as power. Don't rush to respond when she texts. Take your time. If she stops investing, mirror her energy. Not out of spite, but out of clarity. Step back without announcement. Let your silence speak volumes. The key is intent. You're not going cold to hurt her. You're going silent to return to yourself, to realign with your standards. Remind her and you that your attention is a gift, not a guarantee. Eventually, if the connection was real, your silence becomes louder than any word you've said. She starts hearing echoes of your presence in the quiet. And when she reaches again, it's no longer because she's in control. It's because she misses your energy. When wielded with discipline, space isn't distance, it's magnetism. Now comment below, my silence speaks louder than neediness ever will. Number 9. When you're the prize, she invests differently. Most men ignore a simple truth. She treats you differently when she has to earn you, not because you're playing hard to get, but because you actually know your worth. When a man doesn't see himself as the prize, he overextends, he overtexts, overexplains, and overcompensates. He thinks effort equals value, but in reality, value is felt through self-respect, not sacrifice. The Stoic man moves differently. He's not cold, but he's calibrated. He gives energy in proportion to what's received. He doesn't seek to win her over. He lets her qualify herself. in how she shows up. Here's how you become the prize. Don't share your full story up front. Let her discover you piece by piece. Don't make yourself too accessible. Let her initiate sometimes. Don't respond instantly. Let your life remain your priority. These aren't tactics, they're standards. Standards that come from the belief, my presence is earned, not assumed. Think about it. When something is easy to get, it's easy to forget. But when it takes intention, attention, and a bit of effort, it sticks. Not because you manipulated her, but because you required something real before giving more of yourself. Women may be used to men trying to prove themselves, but when she meets a man who doesn't need to, who already knows his value, her energy changes. She slows down. She leans in. She invests. And that's where a different kind of attraction is born. Not from pursuit, but from polarity. No comment below. I don't chase, I choose. Number 10. Emotionally unavailable. No. Emotionally disciplined. There's a growing misconception. If a man doesn't chase, overshare, or constantly emote, he must be emotionally unavailable. But the truth is, he might just be emotionally disciplined, and that's exactly what sets him apart. Most men wear their emotions on their sleeves, desperately trying to connect. They think opening up instantly will accelerate intimacy. But real emotional power isn't in disclosure, it's in discernment, in knowing when to speak and when to stay grounded in silence. The Stoic man isn't shut off, he feels everything, but he chooses what to express and, more importantly, why. He doesn't use emotion to manipulate, guilt, or gain validation. He expresses from clarity, not chaos. Here's what emotional discipline looks like in practice. You don't confess feelings in the early stages to win her over. You don't spiral when she's distant. You observe and adjust. You don't try to fix her mood. You let her experience it without absorbing it. This control doesn't make you distant. It makes you trustworthy. Women don't want men who crumble under emotional pressure. They want men who can hold space for both her storms and their own stillness. What many call emotional availability is often just overexposure. Real emotional maturity isn't in how much you share, it's in how much you contain, in how little you let the external world disturb your inner one. And when a woman senses that, when she feels your restraint, your calm, your ability to be present without performance, she respects it. She leans in, not because you're loud with your feelings, but because she knows they run deep and stable. The man who doesn't need to prove his sensitivity is often the most sensitive of all. Now comment below. I feel deeply. I express wisely. Number 11. Let her wonder. The power of not explaining yourself. Every time you explain yourself, you lose a little power. Not because clarity is weak, but because over-explaining is an apology in disguise. And most men, especially when emotionally invested, fall into this trap without noticing. She pulls away, you write paragraphs. She acts cold, you ask if you did something wrong. She's confused, you start defending your words, your tone, your timing. But here's the truth. A man who knows himself doesn't need to be constantly understood. He'd rather be misunderstood than be dependent on validation. And that subtle refusal to clarify everything creates tension, the good kind. The Stoic man knows that his actions speak louder than his justifications. He doesn't overshare his intentions. He lets time reveal them. When she tests him with distance or confusion, he doesn't collapse into explanation. He stands firm in his energy. Let her wonder, because curiosity fuels attraction. When she doesn't have every answer, she keeps seeking, and in that seeking she invests, emotionally, mentally, energetically. Here is how to embody this. If she asks, "What are we?" and you feel the pressure, pause. Answer from grounded clarity, not panic. If she's moody and expects you to ask, "What's wrong?" observe instead. Give space, not assumptions. If she acts hot and cold, mirror calm, not confusion. You're not playing games, you're practicing restraint. You're letting her feel the edges of your energy without rushing to soften them. And in doing so, you become the emotional contrast she's not used to, but deeply craves. Some men try to win women with words. Others, they let silence do the work. Now comment below. Let them wonder. I move in certainty. Number 12. The final shift, from chaser to center. You've heard the phrase, "Don't chase," but what takes its place? Too many men try to stop chasing without first becoming the man who draws others in. And that's where Stoicism enters, not as a defense mechanism, but as a framework for magnetism. This final piece isn't about one tactic. It's a state of being. A man grounded in his values, clear in his mission, emotionally disciplined and unpredictable in a way that feels alive, but not chaotic. He doesn't perform, he doesn't explain, he doesn't prove. Instead, he anchors. He anchors in silence, he lets her reach out, he leads without needing agreement, he listens more than he speaks, he chooses presence over persuasion. And because of that, everything changes. She starts to second-guess her own patterns. Her usual power plays don't land. Her walls don't intimidate. She senses that this man can't be handled the way others were, and that both scares her and attracts her. Here's what it looks like in everyday life. You walk into the room with purpose, not for attention. You make eye contact with depth, not demand. You respond slower, more thoughtful, unbothered. You make time for her, but you never abandon yourself in doing so. The Stoic man doesn't get chosen, he chooses. And if she's aligned, she stays. If she isn't, he lets her go, without bitterness. Because he's not reacting to life, he's creating it. So what's the end game? You stop trying to be what she wants. You start being exactly what you are. And that becomes irresistible. You're no longer chasing validation. You're becoming the gravity others revolve around. Now comment below, I stopped chasing, I became the center.